Great. Beautiful day out there, man. God dang, the sun actually came out today. That was a good thing. But I FaceTimed with my wife right before practice today, and she works at the draft horse rescue place up in De Pere. She goes up there about 4:30 in the morning. And I looked at her on the FaceTime and said, "You all right?" She's just like, "It was pretty cold out there getting them horses out today." And so I was worried about getting outside for the walk over, but being inside was a pleasant surprise today. Okay, take any questions you may have about what's getting ready to happen.
None of us were complaining about being inside today.
Oh, sure.
What's the challenge with their special teams? I know they got different returners, so does that impact anything at all from your perspective?
Well, again, he's really only got, I think, one game for us on film, to look at. And but it's kind of like going into last week's game, somebody's going to be back there. You think they're going to be capable. He's got great speed. He played in Cleveland a little bit, so we have some film on him playing there. But I think the biggest challenge for us is, Jay Harbaugh's new. It's his first time in the NFL. He's been in college for a long time, so we've gone back through a bunch of college tape to see some of the things that he's done. And he's got a good group. There's always been a really good culture there in Seattle and special teams, the way they play. They've got a heck of a kicker. The punter's really a good player. I can remember working him out at Texas coming out. He does a lot of different things with the ball. He can place it on the boundary and go across the field. He gets the ball out of his hand quickly. And they have a lot of guys playing at a high level right now. I know they've had some blunders, but we all have. That's part of the kicking game. But they've also hit a kickoff return for a touch and have blocked a punt and blocked a field goal and some of those things. So going up there in that noise at night, it'll be a great atmosphere for football, and it'll be a good challenge for us. A little exciting for me is I get to be on the same field as DK Metcalf. I coached his dad at Ole Miss. Terrence played tackle for us at Ole Miss the whole time I was there. So this will be one of those father-son deals for me. Tells him getting older by the game.
Does he know you?
No, I don't think he knows me. I said hello to him in the preseason game. You said, "I coach your dad and I know your mom." And he said, "I tell my dad you said hello." I said, "Be good." But I keep up with Terrence, so Terrence is in coaching right now.
Does that happen to you, Rich, as far as having a son?
I was talking to Sarah. That's the second time. Like I had Kelly's kid last year, right? I had Brian Kelly's kid here for a little bit last year. So that's the second time. And you start to see some of the guys playing in college and hope them around long enough to let it happen a bunch.
What have you thought? I know you touched on a little bit with Dixon. He came in really big in 18. Just kind of the career he's put together for himself in Seattle. Just kind of the punter that he is.
Yeah, he's a tremendous talent. Again, and there's a lot of different things with his kicks. And we can go back to the drop kick conversation we had a month or so ago. He's had a bunch of drop kick onsides that he's pretty good at. And the workout I went and did with him at Texas, it was like he couldn't go. I mean, we were going to go forever. He never got tired. He went from side to side. He was showing me all the different things he can do with it. So his NFL career has been really good. He's been a productive player. He's great in the red zone. He does a great job backed up. And again, where his ability to go from one side to the other can be, a little bit difficult for the return guys. You think you got a read on him. Next thing you know, he sends you all the way across the field. So I think he's been a tremendous NFL player, and I don't see him wearing out at all or wearing down at all. He's still playing at a high level.
Go over every possible scenario every week, but did the end of the Dallas game make any of your cut-ups this week, just as a reminder of what happens if
Sure. Yeah, actually, we put the one that we had against the Jets in 22, we put it on the same cut-up, that it happened to us. Eric Wilson blocked it, and it came on our side of the line of scrimmage, and we had guys running over towards the ball. Their guy touched it first. Once that happens, obviously becomes a no-consequence play. But, those things are bang-bang plays, and it's difficult at times maybe get out of the way of the ball, But I remember Philip Rivers used to tell me all the time, if you want the ball to bounce back to you, go to the gym, So you just have to be aware when those things happen. But a lot of those plays, they make our reel. Sometimes when we do it, unfortunately, they make our reel, But we're all trying to learn from all the mistakes that are made throughout the league, not only just ours.
Manus was saying the other day that you're still teaching them stuff. You've been with plenty of veteran kickers in this league. How much is there left to learn for these guys who have been in the league for over a decade?
I don't, that's a unique question, I think. I'm learning a lot from him too. I think I said it in here a bunch of times already since he's been here. He's very particular, which has actually been really good, not only for our holder for Daniel, but for me, to know someone that knows exactly what he wants. It's easy for Daniel to get it done that way, and it's easy for me to be able to coach the other two guys to get it that way. So I think he's still getting himself in better physical condition. You know, he was out for a little bit. I think he's becoming a better teammate every day. You know, he's been and won a Super Bowl, so I think he has things to say in different ways to our players, his own style of leadership. So I'm really glad he's here, and I think on a daily basis, I'm still learning from him as well. So he kind of threw something at us today at our Gold Rush team that kind of made us pay attention a little bit. So it was good to have it. But again, I'm glad he's here. He's making us all better all the time, and I believe he's got a lot of football left to him.
Hey, Rich, going back to the Dallas play, does that make logical sense to you, the way the NFL rule is that, because it almost feels like you can end up getting penalized for blocking a kick, which is hard to do. Is there a logic to it that makes sense to you as a coordinator?
I would say yes. I understand, because there's that side of the line of scrimmage, right, and then there's our side of the line of scrimmage. So when you have a defining line like that, there is logic to it. There is a lot of sense to it in my mind, especially, you know, when you're teaching, or else you'd have it either be always live or it's always dead, right, if you didn't have that particular line. I mean, I can remember we benefit from it, you know, in Oakland when the guy downed the ball for the punt team, and now all of a sudden he touched it first, the punt team did. Now it's a no consequence play, and Dwayne Harris picks it up. Everybody else on the punt team celebrating, he goes 99 for a touchdown. So again, it's a real smart, you know, play on our side. And what it does, teaches you on the punt team is, hey guys, when that ball crosses the line of scrimmage, we touch it first, it's still a live ball. That's why we talk about pick it up, hand it to the official, things like that. So I think I do see the logic in a defining line of one side of the line of scrimmage compared to the other. So I do understand the rule, that rule. But yeah, I get that.
I was at that Dwayne Harris game.
Say it again?
I was at that Dwayne Harris game.
I didn't hear you.
I was at that Dwayne Harris game.
Oh, right.
You don't remember, but I covered the Raiders back in 2018, so.
I don't remember talking to the press every week at the Raiders either.
You did?
Yeah.
Talked once back then.
Well, since one of your favorite parts of the job is my questions, I'm curious, having coached as long as you have, you've probably coached teams that were good on the road and ones that weren't so good. Matt's been really good on the road. This team has been good on the road. Looks like you might end up taking that path in the postseason. What do you think are the most critical things to being good as a road football team?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's always consequence, right? What's mental toughness? Be your best regardless of consequences. And I think what Coach LaFleur has done a great job of since I've been here is, you know, we're going to have to get to the airport. We're going to have to get on a plane. We have to get on a bus. We have to stay in a hotel. We have to be on time for meetings. We have to get up. You have to have breakfast, pregame meal. You got to get on a bus. You got to go to the game, and you got to play. And it's 100 by 53, right? So I think that's kind of how Matt's portrayed everything, and I think our players have bought into it. I know I've bought into it. I know I appreciate the way he addresses it every week, is that we have to be our best regardless of the circumstance, right? Everybody wants to talk about the weather. Well, the weather's the same for both on game day. So it's an away game, we have to get on a plane. Well, okay, you have to get on a plane. Then we have to get on a bus, then you take the ride, and every bus driver says, we say, how long to the hotel? He says 20 minutes. It doesn't matter where we go, it's 20 minutes from the airport to the hotel. So what I think Coach has done a really good job of since I've been here with our team is putting guys in the mental preparation of, these are the circumstances this week, this is how we're going to handle it, let's go play our best football. And I think our team has bought into that since I've been here.
Will you get some return opportunities on kickoffs? I mean, they've given up a bunch of returns, but they didn't give up any against Arizona, so I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah, you know, they had a tough day on both sides against the Jets. Now, they had some things go for them, some things go against them with the Jets, and still end up winning the game. And, you know, they end up cutting both of those return guys that they had in that particular game and gave up big play. But, you know, I expect the weather to be somewhat the same for both, but I think it'll give both teams an opportunity to return some kicks. We'll have to see how that goes. I remember being up there this time a while back, I think in Dallas, and this time of year, and you know, the weather's always a factor, the wind is always a factor, crowd noise is always a factor. But I'd like to think there's probably going to be some returns on both sides. So I can't really worry about what happened in that last game. They have had a bunch of returns, and they've had a bunch of kickoffs where they've had to cover some kicks too. So I think we'll see both in our game.
Anything else?
Good.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Rich.
guys.
Thanks, Rich. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
All right, what do we got?
As a guy who went from college to the NFL, what do you think about Belichick going from NFL to college?
I haven't really thought about that. Excited for him. I got to know him pretty well when I was at Boston College, spent time with him one-on-one, would go down to OTAs and talk football with him. Obviously, what he's done in our profession is incredible, and I'm sure he'll do a great job there. We'll be a little bit different than the NFL, but I'm sure he'll figure it out. He's figured everything else out, so I wish him good luck, and I'm happy for him. What do you think about it?
I thought for sure it was a negotiating ploy.
He'll do a great job. I mean, that's a great university, and obviously he's one of the best.
So you were going up against a quarterback who's throwing the ball more than just about anybody in the league.
Mm-hmm.
You get him a bunch of passing yards. I realized the Miami game was a bunch of fluff probably because of the score, and Detroit, you're all kind of beaten up by the end of the game. But kind of what do you think of where your pass defense is heading into this one?
No, I think we have some really good moments. And then I think, just like everything else right now, I just think it needs to be more consistent. I mean, if you look at last week, you threw the ball, I think, 38, 40 plus times, right? and a couple times the ball got behind us in some zones, and a couple times we kept it in front and made some really good plays. I just think it's consistency. I think that ties together with a rush, the different things we're able to do each week with coverage, who we have out there, who they have out there, and what our best matchups are, and how we're going to play it. But ultimately, we don't want to give up the home runs, because this group, if you watch them on tape, they got guys who can stretch the field, and this group will try to throw it over your head, kind of like Miami's been doing against everybody. So I think first we got to do a good job of that. That they'll take some shots early. I think the quarterback's playing at a really high level, and they do want to throw the ball. Last week they ran the ball really well. I thought they did a really good job running the ball against Arizona. I know that the one back is injured, but they got two really capable guys, and it's a talented offense. So, we've had some really good moments, and it's just all about consistency in all phases right now.
You gave a bunch of underneath stuff last week. Is that just what you got to do? You can't take away everything, so you settle for some of the underneath stuff so you don't get it thrown over your head? Is that kind of
like underneath, meaning like 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage?
some of that too? But I guess it wasn't like your cornerbacks gave up a bunch of catches, I guess is what I'm saying. Seemed like it was a lot of in front of the linebackers.
Yeah, it depends what zones we're in, right? Are we in cover 3 zone, are we in cover 2 zone, are we in a quarter half, are we in quarters? Each zone you play, there's going to be certain voids, right? So if you are in 3 deep, usually teams are going to try to, get behind your hook players, or they're going to try to throw the ball in front of your corners, or find the zone between your flat defender and your curl defender. If you're in a Tampa 2 zone, the void is usually that 5-yard area, in front of the mic, where the mic's run in the middle of the field. So when you mix up zones, you're forcing them to try to find that area. And usually when you do play zone defense, if you watch around the league or anywhere else, that 5 yards is usually, there's no one standing under there unless you drop 8. So I think you're seeing a lot of that, and then you're seeing a lot of balls thrown behind the line of scrimmage. So again, I think your question's fair, and I completely understand that. You're making me think through it a little bit. It's, when you play the Dolphins, where do you think they're trying to hit you? They're going to try to hit the home runs, right? So who are you playing? Who do they have? Who are you trying to defend? Are we trying to load up to stop the run? Are we trying to play light boxes and defend the pass because we feel good about the run? Or do we have to defend both? So I think it's just a cat and mouse game of what we have to do ultimately to win the game. I don't look at yards in the pass game, and we gave up how many points to the Dolphins? We gave up 17 points to the Dolphins, and he threw for a lot of yards, but they couldn't run the ball, right? So it's points. How do we keep the points down? You play the 49ers, and, we gave up 10, 13 points to them, whatever it was, and they threw the ball more than they ran the ball. It's just, what's our plan to win the game? And that's really all that we look at and figure out how we're going to do that each week. But I haven't put much thought into that question other than what zone are we in, who's out on the field, who do they have, what do we have to stop, and go from there. I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Jeff, do you think, just to the naked eye, it seems teams haven't really tried you guys deep much. Do you think that's more because of 29 back there, or is that what you guys are structurally trying to do to keep everything in front?
Well, that's a good thing, because you get teams that get behind you, and it's going to lead to points fast. The quickest way to score points in our league is to give up explosive plays, right? I think it has to do, one, with where 29 is, and then I think structurally what we've been trying to do is take those away. We've been stopping the run better, right? I think the last few weeks we played better run defense. I think the whole of the season, I give credit to the D-line and the rest of the defense. I think we're playing the run well. And then you got to force teams to try to drive the ball. Now you want to take your shots and be aggressive too. I'm not just saying we're just going to give up yard after yard after yard, because I never want to do that. But the number one thing is you can't get the ball thrown over your head. That's what teams want to do. That's what we do. Matt's going to sit there all day and try to throw the ball over everybody's head, and that leads to a lot of points fast. So I think it's a combination of the players we have back there. I think X is one of them, and he does a great job with that, and people aren't throwing the ball deep against him. And then based on who we're playing and how we're trying to win the game, there's structurally some things we're doing to try to prevent that.
Anderson had played, I think, 8 defensive snaps before the other day since he got here, a year and a half ago. What'd you think of what he gave you? And I don't know what other options he would have had at that point, but
yeah, honestly, when we lost Evan and then we lost Bull, right? I thought Zane did a really good job, and I don't say that so enthusiastically just to talk. Like, I really think he did a good job, and he's been a special teams guy who's done a really good job on special teams. He's a tough kid. He plays hard. He studies it. And, you know, you could tell the first drive he was in, and this isn't a knock on him. This is just me being honest. The first drive he was in, you could tell he was a little uneasy and he was a little anxious. But as the game went on, I mean, he played the game fast, and he was physical, and he had a couple of really big hits. And some of the communication and some of the stuff that we were asking him to do in that game was not easy. And he did a really good job with it, you know, and X is not used to playing next to him. So I think together, like, did we play a great game? I mean, no, obviously we lost. But speaking of him, I think he did a really nice job. And I'm happy for him, and I'm proud of him. And, you know, depending on who comes back and plays this week and who we have to go with at safety, I think he'll be ready to play. I'm confident that he'll be ready to play. So thanks for asking about him, because that's a guy that really nobody's talked much about.
Did you go to him right away when Evan went out, so you didn't have to move Bull?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we did.
Right?
We did. And you want to ask me why?
Well, no, I understand why, right? So then you don't have to juggle as much, but that, in my mind, I was thinking that means the defensive coordinator trusts Zane to go in there and not
Yeah.
play poorly.
You know, but you bring up a really good point, because that's the first thing that, again, just speaking freely, that's the first thing that did enter my mind. Do we try to move two different positions and juggle stuff around and have a new guy play in the slot and a new guy play at safety when we've kind of been down that road with a young player? When he practiced all week at that one position, you know, it's not always the easiest thing to do, and we felt Zane was ready to keep Bull where he was and have Zane be ready to play safety. We felt like that gave us the best chance to have success in the game, if that makes sense. And then, unfortunately, Bull went out, right? So then you had to move Keyshawn into a position he wasn't necessarily playing and practicing. But that happens, and he needs to be ready to, and I thought he did a pretty good job in the game. So you just got to be ready. Just like this week, we'll be ready with whomever will be able to play in the game, and then if anything happens, you have to have a plan. And it's just a good lesson in, one, the guys got to stay ready, and two, the coaches got to do a good job of preparing the backups, and I'm glad that they've been able to do that.
Jeff, I think the last 3 games you guys are giving up, I think it's like 3 yards a carry. I think it's 3.0. Just what do you think's kind of clicked with that, and just sort of the way that the run defense is kind of gelled here the last?
Yeah, I am really proud of the run defense. I do think it's improved. I think the consistency in the guys playing in the scheme, the familiarity, they're comfortable with it. I just see our D like Kenny. I thought Kenny played a great game. I mean, Slayton. I thought Slayton played a great game. And then some of those younger D linemen, obviously RG, but some of those younger guys are really starting to come on. And you can just see there, because that's a really good old line. Like, if you really look back, the Niners are like probably a top 3 offense in everything statistically. Not that that means anything, but the team we just played, it's the same thing. So to stop that run game's not easy, right? So you do some things schematically, but the way our front played, the way they got off blocks, the way they stayed square, and the way they penetrated and tackled, and then the backers, like truthfully, I thought Quay and McDuffie, I thought they tackled really well, and I thought we were physical. And then the other thing is our safeties were coming downhill fast, and they played hard, like really hard. Obviously, Evan got the injury when he came down on the 1, but I think that's a total team effort, but it does start up front. You know, and then obviously you talk about some of those balls over the middle. Sometimes when teams run the ball that much and you are that aggressive, and all of a sudden you dive down and then you see the ball go behind them, I mean, those are some of the things that we do need to work on. But I give the guys a lot of credit, because the last couple of teams we played can really run the football. And if we're going to continue to improve and get better and win games, we have got to be able to stop the run.
Matt was talking about earlier how much they use Charbonnet and Walker on screens after what the Lions were able to do. How do you get defending those screens cleaned up?
Well, I think we played the screens better than we did against Miami the week before. And if you watch around the league right now, actually Matt and I watched it on Monday when we got back in. He was watching the explosive reels and around the league, and it's screen after screen after screen after screen after screen. I kind of looked at him and said, these plays look pretty good, you know? They're around the league a lot right now. So we tried to get better at them going from Miami to Detroit. Was it good enough? No. So I'll tell you, it wasn't good enough, but I thought it was better than it was against Miami, because some of those were worse, right? So then we looked at them again in the time that we had, and we tweaked some calls, and there's some new things that we're going to try to do to continue to improve on them. When you get good players in space, right, it's just you get those linemen out there so quickly, and it's tough. I mean, to be honest with you, in that last game, there was a couple where Kenny was retracing, and he was right there, except he's chasing a guy, and all of a sudden Gibbs puts his foot in the ground, and we need more guys there. So that's what we're going to have to try to do. But that's definitely not easy, but we need to coach it better, and I think we have a better plan this week, and we need to execute it better.
Point like when their left tackle is out in space 5 yards downfield on McDuffie or McKinney or whoever, you don't just want to shoot one side because they'll go the
No.
other way. Is it about forcing him into a teammate then?
Yeah, if I'm the first guy who's coming and you're the blocker who's coming at me, right, and I'm the first guy there, you want to send it back to the D-line who has to retrace, right? Some people call them stack monsters. It's the guys running out of the stack and pursuing, because sometimes the ball gets outside, all your help is inside, you have no chance. Yeah, so you need to know where your help is, if that's what you're asking.
How's a 230-pound guy do that against a 300-pound guy?
Which guy?
Linebacker.
How does a corner do it against a pulling guard when he's not allowed to cut him? You remember when corners could play corner and a guard would come at him on a toss and we could go cut him? You can't do it anymore. Can you imagine being a guy my size and having to go take on the tackle from last week or the tackles from this week? You think that's fun? No. So you can't cut him anymore. So you can see I kind of feel a certain way about that. What do you do? It is a physical mismatch. Maybe not for like a 235-pound guy. That's same foot, same shoulder, get your foot in the ground, use your hand and try to set an edge, and then you always want to play with good leverage, right? So I want to be lower than that guy, so I want to obviously get lower, have more center of gravity, same foot, same shoulder, and our guys are pretty strong now, so a lot stronger than me. So they got to set that edge and turn it back. Now, sometimes it's if there's time and distance and there's space. So say you're the blocker coming to get me and you're the ball carrier, and I feel like I have enough time to make the guy miss and come back underneath and make the play. Because ultimately, you want to leverage the ball, not the blocker. Make sense? If you can make a play and take a shot and make it, you better make it. You follow me so far? Right? Because the other thing is, think about this, right? You're trying to block me, and you're the ball carrier. That blocker, he don't know where the ball carrier is. So if I take a step here, he's probably going to think you're going this way, right? So then I can try to get him to go that way, and I can kind of okey-doke him and come back inside and make a play on the ball. So there are things that we coach him to do other than just close your eyes and hope you don't get destroyed. But it's not fun. But our bigger guys are pretty good at it. But does that make sense with what I'm trying to say?
That's exactly what I was wondering.
Okay.
What, is Pete the ball carrier or am I?
You-
I'm not anything.
Who's faster?
Definitely Pete. Definitely this guy.
Have you seen him run?
No, but I
He's twice his age and twice as fast.
Do you think that's true too?
I don't know.
We've all played pickup basketball.
There we know.
You guys are actually funny, Jack. Go ahead.
I talked to Jair for about 30 seconds today. He said he feels like there's a better chance this week than there was last week. Obvious question, but what would it do for you guys defensively if you actually have him for a game?
I mean, I think we all know the answer to that question. I mean, when Ja is healthy, he's one of the best corners in our league, right? When you have week in and week out, and you're playing against some premier players, sometimes it's helpful to have a premier player to have out there with him. So if he is available, that will be great. If he's not, and I say this with complete confidence in all the other players that we have. I'm confident that they'll go out and we'll compete and continue to play better and play good defense. But like Matt said today, he was out there today, and we'll see what tomorrow and the next day bring. But I know he's trying.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.
line played in Detroit? I mean, I feel like they've had a pretty damn good year overall, but it felt like at least to start the game, they were not themselves.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. I thought we started slow, especially in the pass game. There was a few instances where we were leaking our protections. They got to the quarterback a few times early. But I did think as the game went on, we settled in and rallied and did a better job. But yeah, we definitely needed to start faster to just be more productive at the beginning of the game, which hurt us in the long run.
So you made that good point last time, a few times ago that we talked to you, that, all your road games had been kind of 50-50 crowd games, largely, except
Yeah.
for Chicago.
Yeah.
Did you think it took them a while to settle in with the noise factor, and how does that apply to this?
Yeah, they
game?
could have, for sure. I mean, that could have definitely played a part in that. Yeah.
So you expect them to be better this week then, because of
Yeah.
the loud venue? Obviously.
Yeah, I hope so. And then obviously, we all know Seattle Stadium's one of the loudest in the world. So that's something we definitely got to make sure we do a good job handling that crowd and that environment and just, being professional about that.
Last year, you guys, you finished so strongly. This is kind of a bigger picture question. So coming into this season, the feeling and the expectations had to be a lot different for you guys, for the locker room. How did you approach that?
I think the big thing, how we approached it was the expectations are just more day-to-day and week-to-week expectations. If you think about, we need to be here or we need to, you're reading too far into the future, you're not really focused on getting better today and just whatever is in front of you, whether that's getting better at practice or whatever opponent you're playing that week. So I think you can really kind of get in trouble when you're saying, I expect to do this or we have to do this, when it's just worry about what's in front of you today. And as the season progresses, if you keep doing that every single day, then the results will come, you know what I mean? So I think last year it was easy because we didn't know what to expect, like you said. So it was just like, hey, focus on getting better, focus on, just improving and being a better offense. With this year, it's kind of trying to keep having that same mindset of don't worry about what people think you should be, worry about where you're at, and just worry about getting better. And if we keep doing that, we'll see the results.
Follow that up then.
Sure.
So your quarterback gets this huge contract.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get any sense from him, or did you guys have to manage that about whether he felt like he had to live up to that contract and possibly try to do too much?
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think I ever got that feeling of Jordan thinking, okay, I'm getting paid whatever I need this amount of numbers or I need this. He's mostly just been, what can I do or how can I best help us win? Whether that's handing the ball off or throwing it X amount of times during a game. So I don't think I ever got that feeling from him yet.
So when you're live watching a play down on the field, how quickly are you trying to help Matt or make a suggestion when the play, do you even see the end of a play, or are you already, okay, that play looks like it's going to get us a first down, so I'm going to relay something down?
Yeah, you typically, as you're going, you have okay, if we get a first down, here's my call. If it's if it's second and medium, here's my call. If it's third down and whatever, here are our calls. So you kind of have to play the different scenarios as it unfolds. But for me, anytime Matt says, all right, what do you think we should do? Then you have to have an answer right away. But for the most part, you kind of just want him to just go. You know what I mean? As a play caller, the worst thing you can do is have people yelling in your ear to do this or do that when you have a plan of what you want to do as the drive unfolds. Most of the time, it's in between the drives where we kind of set things up for the next drive or what we want to do, so that when he goes into it, he can just say, all right, this is the plan. This is, what I want to do in the next drive. That's kind of how it goes mostly. But as drives go, yes, if he needs a play, for sure.
Or maybe unrelated, were you watching at the end of Tucker's play when he pops back up right away?
I did see that, yeah.
What'd you think?
I was just yeah, it was pretty crazy, you know. I'd never seen him do that before, so I didn't know he was able to do that. It was pretty cool.
If we're gonna talk about things you saw from upstairs then, the throw that Jordan makes where he eludes the pass rusher coming out the middle and flips his hips, what did that look like to you in real time? And then what did it look like to you when you got to watch it back?
Yeah, for me, I didn't see Jordan on that play. I was looking down at the wide receivers. So I think you're referring to the one he threw to Christian? Yeah, so I was looking at Jay Reed, actually, because he was the guy that I thought was going to get the ball, but then he got pressured and ended up going to Christian. So I was looking at Jay Reed on that play, just kind of how the pattern was unfolding. But yeah, once I saw it, you know, on the TV replay, I was like, holy cow, that was an amazing play. I don't know how the hell he caught that thing or got it off, but it was a hell of a play by him for sure.
Just solidify what he is when he's healthy versus when he's not.
There's no doubt. Like, he does some pretty incredible things in the pocket, and he's made some really good throws and just escaped some trouble this year and done a really nice job. But yeah, when he's feeling good and he can move around and he's feeling confident pushing the ball down the field, it's pretty impressive.
So how do you keep Jordan Morgan involved? How do you keep him progressing when he's not able to practice and play?
Yeah, he just got to come to meetings, you know, and he's just working, watching film, keeping him mentally involved with all of that stuff. It's always tough when a guy's not out there practicing, so you just have to, you know, in the meeting room, keep him as involved as possible.
Do you get any feel at all for what you might have there in the long run?
Yeah,
He's kind of,
no. Yeah, I saw a lot of good stuff from him. I'm very encouraged for the future. So yeah, whenever he gets healthy, we'll get him back out there and just keep working with him. But yeah, I'm very excited about Jordan.
What's the, obviously got the defensive tackle's really good, but their whole D-line seems pretty strong. What's the challenge kind of blocking up that front?
Yeah, Leonard Williams, they move him around. He'll play inside. He'll play defensive end. They do a good job with their load fronts and their twists. They're aggressive with their blitz package, so, you know, they have a lot of different things that they do that we have to get ready for. And obviously, the crowd noise is going to be hard communicating, so we got to do a good job with that, with our calls and things like that. They force, you know, they force the backs to block a lot, so our backs got to do a nice job in protection. And then I think their DBs are really good too. So, you know, anytime you're able to do a good job in coverage, you know, it just allows that rush to get on the quarterback. So we got to make sure when we get our one-on-one opportunities at wide receiver, we do a good job, you know, winning those opportunities to get open quick.
Hey, Steno, so you had the Rome thing earlier in the year. Then I feel like I asked you a couple weeks later, how do you get Christian more involved? So I don't want to be, hey, how do you get Jayden Reed more involved guy? But you telling the story of the throw that I asked you about, like the place, you're expecting the play to go to Jayden Reed.
Mm-hmm.
So even though you drew it up for him, and he's the first read, it doesn't get to him, right? So
Right, yeah.
How do you get, I mean, again, I understand this isn't 8th grade girls basketball, and not everybody gets to play the same amount.
Mm-hmm.
But you do try to get all these guys involved. How do you think you've done trying to kind of spread the wealth when it does feel like there's these?
I think, I don't know like the stats or whatever, but I feel like, you know, if you look like how many guys have caught touchdown passes or multiple touchdown passes or however many X amount of receivers we have with a certain amount of yards, like, I feel like we've done a pretty good job kind of, you know, spreading the wealth, as you said. But yeah, like after the game, when I looked at the stat sheet and I was like, wow, he didn't have any catches, I was like, damn, that's too bad, because he's obviously a guy that you want him to have the ball. But yeah, we called some plays like that first third down where we got a PI where they tackled him. You know, he was obviously the guy we were going to on that play, but it just didn't work out. But you know, at the end of the day, you just gotta rely on your players, and you know, other guys stepped up and made plays, and for whatever reason, he didn't get the ball that game, but I don't expect that to be a trend at all. So I'm not, you know, making a big deal about that.
You know how running backs get to, you know, 30 years old or whatever, and their production kind of tails off.
So,
Obviously Josh isn't 30. Josh isn't 30, obviously, but what stands out as a veteran guy who's kind of bucked that trend of the old expendable running back? What have you seen on the field, off the field that kind of makes him different in that regard?
His mindset, like how he prepares, and a lot of guys you have to manage, and he's a guy you have to manage in terms of taking him off the field because he wants every rep. He wants to be out there. He wants the ball. So you gotta sometimes be like, hey, dude, let's come stand by me for a couple plays just to make sure he doesn't work too hard in practice so that he's fresh on game day. He just has a mindset, a worker, a grinder. I think it's that mentality that's going to allow him to have as long a career as his body allows, just because of that mindset that he has as a competitor.
That's good.
All right, cool. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, I appreciate it.